The stars had been quiet for 300 years. Commander Veltar stretched his forearms as he walked through the bridge of his ship, the Dawn Hunter. His blue skin showed the pale marks of someone who had spent too many years in space, but his eyes still held the sharp focus of a career military officer. "Another patrol through the dead zone," muttered his second officer. Gwendol, her tentacles moved slowly across her control panel, showing her boredom. "Why do we even bother with these old human territories anymore?" Velthor shrugged. The Galactic Confederation had been sending ships through these empty systems for decades now. It was routine work, meant to make sure nothing dangerous was hiding in the dark spaces between stars. Most of the younger officers thought it was a waste of time. The humans had been gone for 3 centuries. Everyone knew that. "Protocol is protocol," Velthor said, though he privately agreed with her. The humans were just another dead race now, like dozens of others that had risen and fallen during the galaxy's long history. The only difference was that the humans had made a bigger mess before they disappeared. The old stories still circulated among the veteran officers. Tales of human ships that could appear from nowhere, weapons that could crack planets, and a species so violent that 12 different alien races had to work together just to survive their attacks. But those were just stories now. War tales that got bigger and scarier each time someone told them. "Sir," called Navigation Officer Teak from his station near the back of the bridge. "We're approaching the Kepler system. Should I plot the standard sweep pattern?" "Yes. Make it quick," Velthar replied. "I want to finish this sector and get back to real patrol routes." The Dawn Hunter dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system. Velthar expected to see the usual collection of dead worlds and floating debris that marked old human territory. Instead, his blood turned cold. The system was alive. Massive space stations hung in perfect formation around a blue-green planet that practically glowed with health. Solar collectors the size of moons gathered energy from the system's star. Asteroid mining platforms worked steadily, their mechanical arms pulling precious metals from floating rocks. Everything looked new, clean, and fully operational. "That's impossible," whispered Gwendol, her tentacles going rigid with shock. "The humans have been extinct for 300 years. Velthor's throat felt dry. "Are you sure we're in the right system?" Before Tick could answer, warning lights began flashing all across their instruments. Ancient communication beacons were powering up throughout the system, their signals strong and clear. A message began broadcasting on all frequencies, spoken in the old human language that every Confederation officer was required to learn. "Warning, you have entered restricted human space. Turn back immediately. This is your only notice." The message, repeated 3 times, then stopped. The silence that followed felt heavier than the void of space itself. Sir Teak's voice cracked slightly. "I'm detecting power signatures from at least 40 installations. They're all running at full capacity. It's like they never stopped working." Veltar stared at the main screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. If the humans were still here, still active, then everything the Confederation believed about the galaxy was wrong. The peace they had enjoyed, the expansion into former human territories, the confidence that came from being the dominant powers in known space, all of it was built on a lie. Deep beneath the surface of the 3rd planet, Admiral Li Hunwu stood in a command center that had been carved from solid rock 3 centuries ago. Banks of computers surrounded him, their screens showing the positions of every ship in human space. His weathered hands moved across holographic controls with the precision of someone who had been preparing for this moment his entire life. "Admiral," said Captain Park Minho from his station nearby. "Confederation ship has entered the Kepler system. They've received the first warning." Hunwu nodded slowly. His gray hair was cut short in military fashion, and his dark eyes held the patience of someone who had learned to wait. Around him, dozens of human officers worked at their stations, with quiet efficiency. None of them looked surprised. They had all known this day would come eventually. How long since we detected their approach? Hyunwoo asked. 17 hours, sir. Our outer sensors picked them up the moment they entered human monitoring range. Hyunwoo allowed himself a small smile. The aliens had no idea how far human sensor technology had advanced during their 3 centuries of isolation. Every ship that moved through this part of the galaxy was tracked, cataloged, and analyzed long before it reached human space. Send word to all stations, he ordered. The Confederation has found us. Begin Phase 1 preparations. Throughout the chamber, status lights began changing from blue to amber. Deep in the planet's core, massive generators that had been running on standby power for 300 years began spinning up to full capacity. In hidden bases scattered across 40 star systems, similar scenes were playing out as humanity's greatest secret finally came to light. They had never left. They had simply been waiting. Admiral Crexton paced the bridge of his flagship like a caged beast. His massive frame, covered in thick gray scales, made the deck plates groan with each step. Around him, the largest fleet the Galactic Confederation had assembled in 2 centuries, hung in space like a metal storm cloud. 12 species, 800 ships, and the finest weapons technology in the galaxy, he growled to his staff officers. If there are any humans left in that system, they won't last an hour. The fleet represented the combined might of every major power in the Confederation. Sleek Nexori cruisers with their quantum weapons floated alongside the massive void dreadnoughts. Asterian science vessels, packed with experimental technology, kept formation with the swift Cathari destroyers. It was a show of force that could conquer entire star systems. Commander Velthor's report had sent shockwaves through the Confederation Council. Active human installations, working technology. The possibility that humanity had never truly disappeared. The response had been swift and overwhelming. They would investigate this mystery with enough firepower to handle any threat. All ships report ready for combat operations, announced his tactical officer. Shall I give the order to jump? Do it, Crexton snarled. Let's finish what our ancestors started. The fleet entered hyperspace in perfect formation. Their destination, the Kepler system, and whatever human remnants dared to challenge Confederation supremacy. They emerged from hyperspace, expecting to face a small collection of ancient human ships and outdated weapons. Instead, they found something that made Crexton's blood freeze in his veins. The solar system had been transformed into a fortress. Asteroids had been carved into weapon platforms, their surfaces bristling with gun batteries that defied easy classification. The planets themselves showed signs of massive construction projects. And hanging in space around the 3rd planet were ships unlike anything in Confederation databases. The human vessels seemed to bend light around themselves, making them difficult to focus on. They moved in ways that violated basic physics, shifting position without visible propulsion systems. Worst of all, there were hundreds of them. Impossible, Crexton whispered. How many ships do they have? Before anyone could answer, space around the Confederation fleet erupted in coordinated fire. The human ships attacked with surgical precision, targeting specific systems on each vessel. They didn't try to destroy the fleet outright. Instead, they methodically disabled engines, weapons, and communications with shots that seemed to come from every direction at once. Captain Kim Jae-in commanded the stealth destroyer Silent Thunder, as it materialized directly behind Crexton's flagship. His crew worked with the calm efficiency of professionals who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Target their command bridge, he ordered his weapons officer. Minimum force. We want survivors to carry our message. The Silent Thunder's weapons were unlike anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of simple energy beams or projectiles, they fired concentrated bursts of disrupted space-time that passed through shields as if they didn't exist. The flagship's command section simply stopped working, its systems shutting down one by one. On Mars, Colonel Choi Suman watched the battle from her underground command center. Banks of screens showed her every detail of the engagement. The aliens were fighting well, using standard tactics and coordinated movements. But they were fighting like they expected their opponents to follow the same rules. Enemy response is exactly as predicted, she reported to Earth Command. They're trying to establish battle lines and coordinate their fire. Recommend we demonstrate. Why that won't work. Her fingers moved across holographic controls, sending new orders to the human fleet. Immediately, the human ships began a maneuver that made several alien officers physically sick to watch. They simply stepped sideways through dimensions, appearing inside the Confederation formation before vanishing again. The battle became a nightmare for the Confederation forces. Every time they tried to target a human ship, it would phase out of normal space, only to reappear somewhere else entirely. Their advanced shields and armor proved useless against weapons that attacked from directions that shouldn't exist. Admiral Hunwoo observed the engagement from his command center on Earth, his expression never changing. This was exactly what he had expected. The aliens had spent 3 centuries believing they were the dominant powers in the galaxy. They had forgotten that humanity's disappearance had been a choice, not a defeat. Casualties? He asked quietly. Minimal on our side, reported Captain Parkman. We've disabled 60% of their fleet. The remainder are beginning to retreat. Let them go, Hunwoo ordered. But first, deliver our message. High-powered transmitters throughout the system began broadcasting on all Confederation frequencies. The message was simple, spoken in perfect galactic standard by a calm human voice. We gave you peace. You chose war. Tell your leaders that humanity remembers, and we do not forgive twice. The surviving alien ships limped away from the Kepler system, their hulls scarred, and their crews traumatized. But the real damage wasn't to their ships. It was to their understanding of the galaxy itself. As Crexton sat in his damaged command chair, watching human ships fade back into whatever dimension they called home, he finally understood why the old record spoke of humanity with such terror. They hadn't been defeated. They had simply been waiting, and now they were awake. The news of Admiral Crexton's defeat spread through Confederation space like wildfire. Within days, emergency sessions were called on every major world. The impossible had happened. Humanity was not only alive, but had somehow become more dangerous than ever before. Supreme Chancellor Vorthok stood before the Grand Assembly, his golden robes trembling with rage. Representatives from 12 species filled the massive chamber, their voices rising in angry debate. Fear hung in the air like a toxic cloud. 300 years, Vorthok's voice boomed across the hall. 300 years of peace, and now, these ghosts return to threaten everything we have built. This cannot stand. The response was everything humanity had predicted it would be. Every species contributed their finest warships. The Nexari brought their reality-bending quantum destroyers. The Voidrons launched their planet-killing dreadnoughts. The Kethari provided their fastest attack squadrons. Within weeks, the largest military force in galactic history was assembling at the edge of human space. Fleet. Admiral Zarthik commanded the armada from his massive command ship. Over 2,000 vessels stretched across space in perfect formation. He had fought in border wars and pirate raids, but nothing had prepared him for leading this kind of force. Begin the advance, he ordered. We'll sweep through every human system and burn out this infection once and for all. But humanity was ready. General Yoon Taeyong sat in the hidden command center of Luna Base, buried deep beneath the moon's surface. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing the positions of every alien ship in real time. His staff worked quietly at their stations, implementing plans that had been decades in the making. Sir, reported Major Song Yuna from her tactical console, Confederation forces are entering the Outer Rim. They're splitting into 3 main groups. Perfect, Taeyong replied, his voice calm, despite the magnitude of what was about to unfold. Activate the ghost protocols. Show them what we've learned in 3 centuries of preparation. Across 17 star systems, something impossible began to happen. Human ships that existed in a state between dimensions suddenly materialized in the middle of the advancing alien fleets. They struck without warning, their weapons tearing through the most advanced shields in the galaxy, as if they were made of paper. Commander Han Soyang led Squadron 7 through the heart of the Nexari battle group. Her ships moved through space in ways that made alien sensors scream error messages. They existed in normal reality only long enough to fire their weapons, then vanished back into whatever dimension they called home. Target their command vessels. First, she ordered her pilots. Make them blind before we make them burn. The Nexari had thought their quantum technology made them untouchable. They discovered that humans had spent 3 centuries learning to fight enemies who could manipulate reality itself. Every quantum field they generated was countered. Every dimensional shift was predicted and intercepted in the Voidran sector. Captain Zheng Wu Zhen watched his automated defense grid come online. For 300 years, human machines had been silently spreading through the galaxy, disguised as space debris or hidden in asteroid fields. Now they revealed themselves, turning the aliens' own infrastructure against them. Mining stations suddenly sprouted weapon arrays. Communication satellites began jamming enemy signals. Even the space lanes themselves became deadly as hidden mines activated in perfect coordination. The galaxy's transportation network, built over centuries of peaceful expansion, became humanity's weapon. Voidran, Home Fleet is requesting emergency evacuation, reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Kim Wano. Their capital system is under siege by their own defense platforms. Zheng Wujin allowed himself a cold smile. Denied. They wanted war. Now they have it. The aliens began to understand that they weren't fighting humanity's main military force. They were fighting a contingency plan that had been 3 centuries in the making. Every human installation they attacked was a trap. Every victory came at a cost that left them weaker than before. Dr. Li Mingi worked in her research station above Titan, her team putting the finishing touches on their latest project. Genetic targeting system is complete, she reported to command. We can now selectively eliminate any species that continues to resist. The biological weapons were humanity's final answer to alien aggression. Viruses that attacked specific genetic markers, nanomachines that could distinguish between different species at the cellular level, weapons that made the old human nuclear arsenal look like children's toys. But the most terrifying discovery for the Confederation forces was that humans had learned to adapt in real time. Every tactic the aliens used was quickly analyzed, countered, and turned against them. Their own technology was reverse engineered and improved within hours of first contact. Admiral Yun received the final reports from his field commanders with the same calm expression he had worn at the beginning of the war. 37 alien worlds had gone silent. 12 species had been reduced to pre-industrial technology levels. The mighty Confederation fleet had been scattered like leaves in a storm. Begin Phase 4, he ordered. It's time to show them what peace looks like under human terms. The aliens had forgotten why their ancestors feared humanity. It wasn't just their violence or their technology. It was their absolute refusal to accept defeat, combined with a patience that could span centuries and a coldness that could calculate the extinction of entire species as just another tactical option. Now, they would remember, written in the ashes of their burning worlds. The great halls of the Confederation Council stood empty. Emergency sirens wailed through corridors that had once echoed with the confident voices of galactic leaders. Supreme Chancellor Vorthog sat alone in his massive chair, staring at reports that told the same story over and over again. Defeat, retreat, silence from entire star systems. Sir, his aide whispered, approaching the throne with trembling steps. The Nexari ambassador is here. She says it's urgent. Ambassador Killiner entered the chamber, her usually pristine robes, torn and stained. Her 4 eyes, normally bright with intelligence, now held the hollow look of someone who had seen too much death. Chancellor, she began, her voice barely audible. My homeworld is gone. Not destroyed, gone. The humans made it simply stop existing. 20 billion lives, and now there's just empty space where our planet used to be. Vorthok's hands gripped the arms of his chair until his knuckles turned white. 3 months ago, he had commanded the largest military force in galactic history. Now, he was receiving reports of weapons that could erase entire worlds from reality itself. What do they want? He asked, though he dreaded the answer. Surrender, Killiner replied. Complete and total surrender. No negotiations, no terms. Just submission. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out on every surviving Confederation world. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia now huddled in underground bunkers, waiting for human ships to appear in their skies. Prime Admiral Kang Doyoung stood on the bridge of the final dawn as it emerged from hyperspace above the Asterian homeworld. The planet below had once boasted the most advanced defensive grid in known space. Orbital platforms that could shatter moons, shield generators powered by the planet's core, fleets of automated defenders that never tired and never retreated. All of it was burning, sir, reported Lieutenant Im Hyungjin from his communications station. We're receiving surrender broadcasts from the surface. They're offering complete capitulation. Kang Doyoung studied the dying world below with cold eyes. The Asterians had been among the first to join the coalition against humanity. Their scientists had developed many of the weapons used in the initial assault on human space. Now their greatest cities were nothing but glass craters, their populations scattered and broken. Response? Im Hyungjin asked quietly. Tell them it's too late for surrender, Kang Doyoung replied. They chose war. Now they live with the consequences. The final dawn's weapons charged with a sound like distant thunder. When they fired, the planet's remaining defenses simply ceased to exist, not destroyed or damaged, but erased from reality, as if they had never been built on Earth. Dr. Li Mingyi received the latest reports from her research teams scattered across human space. Her biological weapons had exceeded every expectation. Viruses that targeted specific alien genetic markers had swept through 3 different species, leaving them weak and defenseless. Others had been modified to attack technology itself, causing alien computers and weapons to break down at the molecular level. The Cathari home system has gone silent, she reported to Admiral Hunwoo during their daily briefing. Our nanomachines have rendered their entire industrial base inoperable. Hunwoo nodded, making notes on his tablet. Around them, the command center buzzed with quiet activity as humanity's war machine continued its methodical destruction of Confederation civilization. Maps on the walls showed systems colored in red for destroyed, yellow for occupied, and an ever-shrinking amount of blue for still under alien control. Any word from the diplomatic teams? He asked. Several species have attempted to make contact, replied Captain Park Min-ho. The Voidrons are offering tribute. The Zalani want to discuss terms. The Asterians are begging for mercy. And our response? The same as always, sir. Unconditional surrender or complete elimination. Humanity had learned patience during 3 centuries of hiding. With that patience had come an absolute resolve that shocked even their own leaders. There would be no negotiated peace, no return to the old ways. The aliens had been given one chance at coexistence, and they had chosen violence instead. Fleet Admiral Park Sun-ho watched from his flagship as the last Voidran fleet made its final stand around their homeworld. The massive alien ships fought with desperate courage. Their crews, knowing they were defending not just a planet, but the continued existence of their entire species. It didn't matter. Human weapons had evolved beyond anything the aliens could comprehend. Ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Weapons that attacked through time itself, destroying targets before they were even fired upon. Technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than absolute rules. Enemy fleet eliminated, reported his tactical officer. The homeworld is defenseless. Park Sun-ho studied the blue-green planet hanging in space before them. Billions of lives, a civilization that had lasted for thousands of years, all of it now at humanity's mercy. Implement Protocol 7, he ordered. Complete planetary sterilization. The process was quick and clean, no explosions or dramatic destruction. The planet simply became lifeless, its surface scoured of anything that could support civilization. Another species added to the growing list of those who had learned too late that humanity's mercy was not weakness, but a choice offered only once. In the depths of space, automated human war machines continued their silent work, ensuring that no alien civilization would ever again pose a threat to human interests. The galaxy was learning a new kind of peace. The war ended with silence. Not the dramatic final battle that historians would later expect, but simply a gradual quieting as alien worlds stopped transmitting, stopped fighting, stopped existing as independent powers. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see what humanity would do with its victory. On the neutral station of Haven Point, the last gathering of alien leaders sat around a table that had once hosted trade negotiations and cultural exchanges. Now it served as the final meeting place for species facing extinction. Ambassador Theleries of the surviving Nexori delegation fidgeted with her translation device, her forehands trembling slightly. "They're coming," announced the station's AI in its calm, emotionless voice. Human transport approaching docking. Bay 7. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. They had expected war criminals to face military tribunals, or, at best, gloating conquerors demanding tribute and submission. Instead, they were told to expect an administrator, someone who would discuss the terms of the new galactic order. The docking bay doors hissed open, and Administrator Kim Hyren walked into the station with the quiet confidence of someone who held absolute power. She was smaller than most of the aliens present, dressed in simple gray clothing that bore no military insignia or symbols of rank. Her dark eyes held neither hatred nor triumph, just the calm focus of someone conducting routine business. "Thank you for coming," she said, taking her seat at the head of the table. Her voice was soft, but it carried clearly through the chamber's translation systems. "I know this has been a difficult time for all of your species." Ambassador Theleries found her voice first. "What do you want from us?" Hyren opened a simple tablet and scrolled through several pages of text. "Your complete cooperation with the new administrative structure. Military limitations will be imposed immediately. All weapons development will cease. Interstellar travel will require human approval. Industrial capacity will be monitored and regulated. And if we refuse, ask General Verketh of the Voidran remnants." His massive frame barely fitting in the station's chairs. Hyren looked up from her tablet with the same calm expression. "Then you join the species that already chose that option." The simple statement sent chills through every alien in the room. They all knew the reports. Entire civilizations that had simply vanished overnight. Worlds that still existed, but showed no signs of life. Star systems where human monitoring stations hung alone in empty space. "You're asking us to become slaves," Verketh growled. "No," Hyren replied. "I'm offering you survival. Your species will continue to exist, to grow, to develop culturally and scientifically. But you will do so under human oversight. There will be no more wars between your peoples. No more weapons development. No more threats to galactic stability." Over the following months, the transformation began. Human administrators appeared above every major alien world, their sleek monitoring stations serving as permanent reminders. of the new order. The stations were not heavily armed, but everyone understood they didn't need to be. Humanity's true weapons remained hidden, ready to emerge if needed. Governor Shinjuku oversaw the Nexari sector from his orbital platform above their surviving worlds. His administration was noted for its efficiency and fairness. Disputes between different alien groups were resolved quickly and impartially. Trade was regulated, but allowed to flourish. Scientific research continued, though certain fields were now forbidden. "Sir," his aide reported during their morning briefing, "we've detected unauthorized weapons research on Nexari 7, a small laboratory trying to develop new shield technology." Shinjuku sighed and made a note on his tablet. Standard response: shut down the facility, relocate the researchers to approved projects, and remind the planetary government about the consequences of violations. The reminder was unnecessary. Everyone in the Nexari sector remembered what had happened to the last world that had tried to restart weapons development. The planet still existed, but its surface had been stripped of all technology above the level of simple tools. The population had been relocated to agricultural colonies, their technological civilization erased in a single day. Years passed, and a new generation of aliens grew up in the post-war galaxy. They knew humans not as the terrifying conquerors of legend, but as the quiet administrators who maintained order and prevented conflicts. Human monitoring stations became as familiar as moons in the sky, their presence both reassuring and ominous. In a classroom on Asteria Prime, young student Kailana raised her hand during her history lesson. Her teacher, Elder Morthic, was one of the few beings old enough to remember the war. "Teacher," she asked, with the innocent curiosity of youth, "why do the Elder Ones speak of humans with such fear? The human administrators seem fair. They help settle our disputes and make sure we have enough resources." Morthic looked out the classroom window at the human monitoring station that hung in their sky like a second moon. Its sleek hull reflected the light of their sun, and small patrol ships moved around it in regular patterns. Beautiful, efficient, and absolutely deadly. "Because, child," he said quietly, his voice barely above a whisper, "when humans show mercy, it is not weakness. It is a choice, and they only give that choice once." Above them, the station's lights pulsed steadily in their eternal rhythm, a reminder that humanity's vigil never ended, and that peace in the galaxy now depended on remembering the price of challenging those who had chosen to be merciful. The new order had begun, built on the ashes of those who had forgotten why humanity was feared